we were happened to be doing American Buffalo at the time. Part of the second year, they were asking for people to go off and find a local theater of your choosing that you can volunteer at. Kid you not, I walk into EST. There's Bill Macy, Kurt Dempster, and Dave Mamet at the top of the stairwell. And I have a copy of American Buffalo in my hand. And I don't know, call it what you will, but I just got the courage, walked right up to him, tugged on his shoulder and said, "Excuse me, Mr. Mamet, but we're doing your play and I'd love to take some time to talk to you." And he looks at me and goes, "Yeah, sure. Yeah. What do you want to talk about?" Right on the spot. And it was great because it was happening at EST. It was with Bill Macy, their history in Chicago. Long story short, we developed a relationship. He gives me his home address, and at that time he was living in Massachusetts. I wrote him a letter, not expecting to hear back from him. A week later, I get a letter. "How's the writing going? How's the acting going?" And I thought, this is a different individual, and I'm really lucky. And then I started to tell people, which many people didn't believe what I was telling. Right. I said, "I've got this pen pal going with this famous, wonderful, generous man, David Mamet." And we just struck up a dialogue, and I would ask him questions, and then he, as busy as he was, would offer his advice, send me some books on directing, playwriting, writing in general. He comes out west to essentially move, and also he was brought out here to do some films. So the first film out west that I got to be on was Spartan with Val Kilmer. And basically, once again, it was, "Thank you so much, Mr. Mamet." He goes, "Okay, this is what I'm going to have you do. I'm going to have you sit down here. Don't say a word. Just watch what everyone's doing, know everyone's name, and that's it." And that's all I did. And then started assisting on plays that he was doing locally. And then that led to Redbelt and the unit on CBS, which he wrote me in as a character.
I love the unit.
I basically tell people that I got a film education, writing education from this particular individual that I hold dear and precious to this day, because he's taught me just about everything I know about structure, writing, story analysis. And that led into his love for jiu-jitsu. He'd always had a love for the martial arts.
That was my question was, were you doing jiu-jitsu at the time, or?
I was, but in New York.
Yeah, right.
And so I had a wrestling coach years prior in high school that had lived in Japan and done Japanese jiu-jitsu, which I had maybe heard of, but I didn't understand to the extent, which is, for those that don't know, a lot of locks, very similar approaches. There's interwoven with some judo, but he started, he said, wrestling, this is how he broke it down. Wrestling stops, the jiu-jitsu finishes and picks up from where the wrestling stops. And I just felt like we thought, we were hearing a foreign language, but he would show us these really cool wrist locks. And I thought it was a natural progression from wrestling into that world. And that's what I always loved about it. And so that is the impetus for me to continue on and want to go. And then David just fell in love with it and had that, as we all have, our love affair with the martial arts, and fully immersing ourselves into it like I did in a wonderful way. And then he says, I just want to write a film based on my love of the art. And that's how that came about in its own iteration. And just got to see and witness some of that process, which is interesting. And once again, he goes, "You're going to meet the Machados." I'd heard about the Machados from Henzo's out east and other schools. Land over here, go to Inasano Academy, meet John Jock. I meet John Machado, and then Hegan. and Hanato Magno, who runs Street Sport.
Right, and he ended up being the Hanato Magno ended up being the choreographer for Redbelt, correct?
Right.
Or one of them, at least.
One of them, Rico Schiaparelli, the wrestling, Hanato primarily, and Hanato having a role in it, John having a role in it. So the Machados were always on set.
And Jack Gill was the stunt coordinator.
That's right. That's right.
Legendary.
Legendary. And so it was this perfect storm. Yeah, exactly. Of being in the world with a great director, Chicago actors, New York actors, friends of David's, guys that became my friends, and then jiu-jitsu. And I sat there. There were moments, I'm not kidding you, where I go, wow. Like, if you just capture this moment, this is like a perfect scenario.